Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Knife Guy. What are we talking about today? These are the top 10 most obnoxious things that you'll hear some members of the knife community say periodically, or just behaviors that are generally very negative and negatively impact the community. It's also like the foundation for a lot of this stuff is generally self-serving, which is why I have very little patience for it. I have a much larger list for sure, but I'm going to go over the top 10. Before we get started here, I just want to let everybody know that I'm very much aware of the general hypocrisy associated with judging people for having certain opinions and telling people to avoid these types of behaviors. Like, you're going to hear a lot, like I'm going to say, don't try to jam this down other people's throats. Like, let people think what they want. But that's kind of exactly what I'm doing here. I guess it's kind of a catch-22. Let's start off here, no particular order, right? We'll start off here with number 1 and go to 10. The use your poop crowd, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to use your knives. I think it's just fine, right? It's your property. Use your stuff, right? You want to buy a knife and you want to take it out and you want to use it. You want to use it hard. I think you can do that because you paid for it. But the way that I worded this was worrying about whether or not other people use their knives the way, and in quotes, they should be used. This is real simple. It's not your property. You don't get to decide. Anybody who purchases a knife, if they want to purchase a knife, dig a hole 500 feet in the ground and then bury it and then forget it exists. It's a weird choice, but it's their choice because they bought it. Don't bother yourself worrying about what other people do with their stuff. Worry about you and your stuff and what you paid, what you have that's your property, right? Because if somebody used their money to buy something, that's their property. It's not your business. Number 2, expensive knives. I'm going to read this how I worded it. In quotes, I put, I'd never pay more than X for a knife, right? Now, I think it's perfectly fine. I want to try and do both sides of this where it's rational and then where that you get the irrational takes, right? There is nothing wrong with being budget oriented. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the truth is you can definitely buy a knife and have it last forever. Use it, the way that it's intended to be used and have it function properly. You don't have to spend a ton of money to get a good utilitarian knife. And also, just throwing this in here post-recording, overpriced knives do exist, right? I mean, it definitely is a thing that occurs, but there's a difference between somebody pointing out when something is overpriced versus its competition and somebody just hating that any knife exists that costs more than a certain amount and they don't really have a foundation for feeling that way. Blind anger over any knife that costs more than whatever arbitrary number you've come up with is such a silly behavior. There is no reason. It's going to exist, right? You can cry every day. You can fill your pants with spaghetti until the cows come home. Expensive knives will exist. Their existence doesn't bother you. You can simply ignore them. In fact, you live in a time where more budget options are available to you than ever have been. And I find it ironic, right, with the mentality being that you can get one good knife for not a lot of money and have it last forever. Why even bother dedicating emotion towards things that are expensive? Here they are. They exist. They have. They will. You're going to have to get over it. Moving on here, this one, oh man, this is going to hit. It's going to hit real personal with a lot of people. You guys need to hear it. Good/bad taste. You are, this is a bolstering of your own ego. I've said this many times. Good and bad taste essentially doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. If you exist on an island with 50 people, right, and based on the parameters of that island, what you have available to you, right, this is how you come up with, for whatever, just bear with me, right? You have a limited space and you have a limited social circle. And amongst that social circle, given that limited space and the limited things that you have available to you, you come up with in your own little group what is considered good taste and bad taste. And then you are suddenly subject to a much larger population than you even knew existed with different perspectives and different reasoning. that good taste goes as far as your social circle and the things you have been subject to. There's nothing wrong with preferring certain things and, not liking other things, but to suggest to somebody else who simply has different tastes than you that they have bad taste and you have good taste, I think that is one of the most ignorant things you could. I think that is on as far as like the pile of stupid behavior goes. That's very near the top. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, okay, well, nothing that comes out of your face hole from here forward is worth listening. Like, if you're kind of joking around and you're like, man, you got like bad taste, like there's a difference between it being friendly and weaponizing it and trying to put yourself up on a pedestal as if your perspective, your taste is the only one that matters, and then anybody. I find all of that to be trash nonsense.
Good sir, I consider myself someone who has the utmost premium taste. How dare you?
And then they waft their little white glove around. Shut up. Moving on here. Let's go to number 4. How did I write it? Glorification of unnecessary. Oh, this is a good one. Glorification of unnecessary durability in folding knives and setting unrealistic bars for general functionality in regular pocket knives. What does that make you think of? Cold Steel fanboys, for sure. Now listen, I know, because I target them a lot. Cold Steel marketing. I love Cold Steel knives. I think the Triad Lock is awesome. It's really cool. The marketing gave a lot of very susceptible people the wrong idea about what a knife should and should not be capable of. Is it awesome that the Triad Lock is that durable? I have one right here. Should have had one out. Oh yeah, it's super cool. Like there's no denying that it's incredibly cool, right? Is this a standard that we should hold all knives to? And if a knife cannot perform in the ways that Cold Steel showcases in some of their old marketing, right? If a common pocket knife cannot perform that way, does that make it bad? No. And as hilarious as this sounds, guys, at some point in your knife journey, you have come across one of these goofballs, right? They only trust Cold Steel because they watched a guy with his shirt tucked into his khakis chop a pig in half. With like that's it. It really was powerful. I didn't realize. I mean, I can see the lasting effect, the shockwave of some of this old marketing on people. And if a folding knife can't perform in all of these completely and totally unrealistic ways, it's not good. Now, on the flip side, should you expect that your pocket knife lock up safely and correctly? Should it be reliable in normal situations and maybe some situations where you just have no choice? Well, yeah, right? Does it need to, like, does every knife need to hold up? Like, every folding knife need to hold up to, like, hanging 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds? No, it doesn't, right? Sometimes it's just hard to admit that you got roped in with marketing. Sometimes it's just knives and capability being pushed to extremes that are unnecessary and it appealing to people for reasons that they can't really explain, right? And instead of looking back and going, oh yeah, that is a little ridiculous, instead people just choose to tell everybody else that their stuff is not as good. Number 5, in quotes I put artificial scarcity, meaning is sometimes people scream this when they are upset that something they often just discovered is out of stock. It's general entitlement. So on one hand, artificial scarcity, does it exist? In some cases, yes. It's nowhere near as common as people think. Usually what happens is that this term is used. They read it. They're on Reddit, right? Just the cesspool of Reddit. They hear the term artificial scarcity. And then the very next time, people kind of like bank. You can tell when someone has they're like, ooh, I'm going to log that one away and then use it the next opportunity that I have, even if it's loosely related. Or they're not really sure how to use it, so they're just kind of taking it on a test drive, right? So artificial scarcity is definitely a real thing, and it is definitely a tactic that some knife companies use in some situations. But there's so many more variables, right? Sometimes if a retailer is given a limitation on how many things they can order for an exclusive from a company, based on their manufacturing limitations and the contracts that they've made with these different retailers or these different individuals, right? it depends on how many of them they're trying to serve, right? Everybody's going to have limitations. And basically, it has less to do with this overarching grand scheme, right, from these major companies. It has less to do with that. It's just basically really, really angry people who didn't get their way. This is one of those things that people are going to fire back at me on, right? Because it feels like a personal attack, but I just want to pop this in post-recording, a little bit of self-awareness here. I do realize that as a content creator that I am given opportunities that other people are not given. So it's really easy for me to preach to people and be like, don't be so upset about the thing that you didn't get, while sometimes I have access to things for promotion. So yes, if you're going to point that out to me, you are correct, but I still agree with myself. As somebody who does not have access to everything, and somebody who does try to acquire things and fail based on limited availability, I do still agree with the point that I'm about to make. So anyways, be honest with yourself. Sometimes the thing you wanted, you didn't get, and you're just mad. So screaming that artificial scarcity was the reason you didn't get it is that you only care in the moment for that thing. If you got that thing, if you waited in line, so to speak, and you got your thing, right? Would you turn around and dedicate yourself? Would you continue on this crusade against artificial scarcity? No, because you got your thing. You got your little thing and you're happy with it, right? So a lot of times that's what it is. It's just general entitlement. I get it. when I want something that I know is going to drop and it drops and I don't get it, right? And I feel like, why didn't you make more? Why didn't you make just enough for me? Right? That's where your brain goes. Irritating, yes, right? But I realized I only cared in the moment for this thing. That was it. That was the total amount of dedication that I was willing to give up, right? Because as soon as I got it, I stopped caring. People are generally, a lot of times it's a self-serving complaint. You only care until you get it, right? So anyways, it's okay. You can scream at me in the comments. So the sixth one, this is a funny one. Fixed blade master race is all I wrote there. Don't they know a fixed blade is stronger than a folding knife? Yeah, we do. In fact, most people who own folding knives own fixed blades. Fixed blades, generally speaking, are going to be stronger than a folding knife. Why? Because it's all in one piece. It's pretty simple. For some reason, there is sort of like this weird, I don't know what happens in the brains of these people to think like that, yes, all secret knowledge is once sacred to our own people, we must bestow this knowledge amongst the simpletons of the knife world. Yes, we descend now. The golden light of wisdom may shine upon you. We know. It's just a fixed blade. They've been around forever. You use them when you don't want to, damage a pocket knife. I guess a lot of times in that situation, you're like, well, maybe I should be using a different tool. This is simple knife 101 stuff. Everybody knows. I don't know what the idea behind it. It's like, I feel sometimes the ways that the comments are worded, it looks like they expect people to be like, oh my gosh, thank you. Oh, I was about to do something stupid. I was about to purchase a folding knife. Oh my God, thank you. Now I can use my money to buy a fixed blade, a totally superior product in every conceivable circumstance. Oh, I don't know what I would have done had you not popped in to tell. It's so dumb. Number 7. It kind of ties into something else, but I feel like it was good enough to, talk about on its own. Frustrations over design elements that aren't utilitarian, or anger over embellishment. Why? Art knives and, embellishments, making things like, here's the thing. It comes down to preference and what you appreciate personally. Let's say you consider yourself somebody who is all utility, no nonsense, right? Great. So you have, let's say, utility knife. Yes, you're going to buy I'm going to buy a utility knife. No nonsense, no frills, all utility. I'm going to walk in and I'm going directly to Home Depot and I'm going to buy the most utilitarian, most cost-efficient tool that I could possibly find. Nobody is that robotic. Even if you don't realize it, if you have a choice, if the knives are all the same, outside of some teeny tiny little non-utilitarian element, you'll make a choice based on some subconscious preference. So as much as people get upset for some reason, waste energy on people who enjoy the over-embellished aspects of knives, or the fact that they exist, I think that's even funnier. It's wasting it. This exists! Ah! Like, what? It's not going to make it go away. It's still going to be there after you're done screaming at the sky. You know, it's ridiculous. It doesn't matter. It's not like more or less joy coming from these embellished elements. It's more right or more. You just have maybe less of a preference. You're more utility oriented, and other people enjoying. It's a different part of the knife world that they are enjoying, right? A part of the knife world that's simply not meant for you. It's meant for a different audience. People who appreciate totally different things. There's nothing wrong with that. It's another one of those situations where it exists. You can just ignore it. You don't have to pay attention to it at all. Honestly, I think a lot of it is just like, it's geared more towards like being angry about like expensive things. And like, it comes down to people, you know, being irritated that there are groups of people buying things that are incredibly expensive, and they reduce it to make themselves feel smarter or better or whatever, right? They reduce it to, these idiots are just paying for something that doesn't give them any utilitarian benefit, and I'm so smart, and look at me because I'm not susceptible to the same thing. You just haven't been presented with that thing yet. And people don't like to hear that. But it's like I always say, you won't until you will, right? The more that you are presented with, the more likely that you are to be presented with something that will break your silly little wicker shield that you pretend is impenetrable. It's nothing. Your defenses, when presented with exactly the right thing, your defenses are nothing. It's a simple glass pane with an inevitable rock hurtling towards it, ready to shatter it at any moment, right? So don't waste your time. The people who are interested in that stuff, they don't care what you think, and you shouldn't care what they think. Just buy what you like, right? Moving on. This is a simple one. In quotes, number 8. I'm a machinist, and it don't cost that much. Just shut up. Number 9. Oh, this is so common. Using the hobby to force your political views on other people. Yeah, this is incredibly common. It's all the time. There is nothing wrong with having your own political views and your own reasoning behind your purchases. A lot of people will not purchase knives that are made in certain countries, and they have their own reasons. There is nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. You get to decide for yourself, right? But a lot of people who may have a lot of you have a lot of thoughts. I got a lot of stuff I want to say. I want to be mad. I'm mad at different. I want to blame a lot of things on huge groups of people, and I want to yell at them. But when I do it on my own social media pages, nobody listens. So I find a channel that has a lot of traffic, and I'm gonna drop down out of the sky and I'm gonna scream my opinions here, whether people want to hear it or not. That's what you're doing. It's people don't want to hear it. You're going to a place where people don't have a choice, and you're dropping it, right? Now you could say, technically everybody who leaves a comment is doing the same thing, right? I have a right to my opinion. I have a right to leave it here. Yeah, you do. But you're not protected against, you don't have the right to dictate how people respond to it, right? So basically it comes off as just obnoxious self-righteousness. I'm sure that in many cases, people have genuine cares and concerns, and there's a good reason behind the choices that they make. But as soon as you start aggressively forcing it down everyone's throat, right? You just pop in and here's what I think, and you have to accept it. That's when it's wrong, right? That's when you're essentially just asking for people to not take you seriously and to aggressively dismiss you, which is fair because you're leaving these opinions and comments in a public setting. If you don't want to give money to this group or that group or make purchases on products based on where they are manufactured. You can do that with your money, and it's done. And furthermore, there is no good outcome to this. All it does is create argument. It does not slowly turn into a big handshake party. Oh, I see that you have a differing opinion than me. Well, that's okay. Let's shake hands on it and have a piece of pie. That's not what happens. You just want to fight. You don't get anything done. You're just angry, and you just want everybody to know that everybody else is dumb and you think the right way. And finally, number 10, I just have in quotes, gatekeepers or gatekeeping, the club mentality. No matter who you talk to, no matter where you are in your knife journey or what little social circles you're in, what weird little private Discord group you're in or whatever, you'll have certain people claiming to be more, and it won't be direct, it'll be more of an implication that there are more sophisticated this or that, and it's total nonsense, right? There's no special groups, there's no special clubs. You just have little tiny groups of people who consider themselves more elite than other people for being part of something that they consider special, or they consider more special than whatever other people are experiencing. People sometimes do say things like, the worst one is don't be poor. Come on, don't be poor, right? Or like pretending that you are better because you have more or have experienced more. A common consistency with these types of people is they claim to represent a much larger audience than they actually do. It's usually just very, very small groups of people who become very, very isolated in their opinions and their thoughts and their preferences, and they somehow create this idea that they have a better way of thinking or a better way of understanding than people who have not experienced the same things as them. You can completely and totally ignore their existence, and your experience in the knife world will be better, or at the very least, completely and totally unchanged. There are plenty of people out there who actually view my channel this way, and, you know, if that's the case, I think that's totally fine, right? Not my intention, but periodically I can see how it comes off that way. You know, it's all you can do is just kind of decide who you want to get information from and what type of experience you want to have in the knife world. You don't have to listen to anybody in particular. So if you come here and you like the way that the content is presented and you like the information you're getting, then great. And if you don't like it, you have choice. That's the common denominator with a lot of this stuff is you have choice. You can make the choices that make you happy and ignore the options that you feel like would not make you happy. That's the beauty of all of this. In my opinion, these are behaviors to avoid. These are the types of people to avoid, and it's also a behavior that you yourself probably should not acquire and project at other people because it doesn't do anything. It's self-serving, right? I think all of us are guilty of bits and pieces of this over time. I certainly am, right? But sometimes sometimes you got to look at it and be like, maybe I shouldn't act like that. Maybe just let people enjoy what they're going to enjoy. All right. Can't wait to see the comments under this one. This was fun for me to do. I enjoyed it. Hope you did too. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.